What's poppin'? It's Mello back at you with another video, and we gonna talk about 1090 Jake today. We gonna get straight into it, and the whole question is 1090 Jake a culture vulture? Because I'm seeing all these comments every time he exposed somebody, and it's like, oh man, he's destroying the black community. He is taking food out of black families' mouths. These young brothers is trying to make it, and he is taking them down. That's the narrative that a lot of people going with. And we're going to touch on it from a few different angles, man. So the first angle, we're going to touch on the gangster perspective. Because when it comes to the gangster dudes, they wear two hats when it comes to this. And it's a cognitive dissonance. So I'm going to talk about both of the hats that they wear. The first hat is the street nigga hat. Where you believe all snitches are bad. Fucking death to rats, all of that shit. You hate snitches. As a street dude, that's what you believe in. You abide by the G code. You believe in the G code, all of that shit. Even if you look at Terrence Gangster Williams, he is, Baby's brother and stuff like that. And he was doing the street stuff, on the Cash Money side back in the day. He went to jail for a long stint, but he got out, and he talks on YouTube all the time. You can look him up and look up the stuff I'm saying. But he told on somebody who passed away. He put some murders on somebody who passed away. People try to label him a snitch because of that. And even with that, he's pretty much accepted it. He's like, it is what it is. But he's a free man. And people are mad at him because he told on people who are no longer here, dead. If you believe in a G code to that ridiculous of an extent, that's insane. That's ridiculous. It's illogical. Then you believe that all snitches are bad under any circumstances. No gangster should ever tell for anything, even if, somebody robbed their house or some shit. It's no circumstance a nigga should tell on anybody ever if they are a gangster. That's what you believe. Where the cognitive dissonance comes in is when you take off the gangster hat, you see 1090 Jake doing this shit, and you put on the woke black guy hat, you put on a, black empowerment hat, which first off, that's not what gangsters are about. Gangsters are self-serving. Gangsters are all about self-preservation. That's how come Zimmerman is just cool, just doing whatever he want, because when it comes to the black shit, they don't give a fuck about none of it. They don't stand on nothing for black people. They only stand on shit for money, for their own selfish reasons. That's really what it is. For money and their emotions. That's really it. So with that being said, they get into this and 1090 Jake, what he's doing is so wrong. He is such a horrible individual, and he is racist, and he is just destroying the black community. This is what you got to look at if you're a gangster. And I had an epiphany. I made this video before, but I had to scrap it because I had this epiphany after I made it. And I'm going to tell you the epiphany when it comes. But the cognitive dissonance in this is okay, if you believe snitches are bad, period, they are just horrible people, they are the scum of the earth, and you hate them with all your guts. You hate them. If you feel that strongly about snitches, what is wrong with exposing snitches? What is wrong with exposing snitches? If you are somebody that's local, and I've seen this play out a million times, and somebody tells you that, XYZ, another local dude is a snitch, and you a gangster, you like, oh yeah, fuck that nigga. We ain't rocking with him no more. He a snitch. That's if the hood don't love him like that, because some niggas get past it. But outside of that, that's just how that shit go. I ain't never seen nobody say this motherfucker is wrong for putting out that paperwork and stuff. I ain't never seen that. Never. Ever. But this is the real issue. If you a gangster and you out here in these Instagram comments talking about, oh man, this nigga telling on people he destroying careers and stuff like that, what you got to ask yourself is what he's doing actually wrong? Or is it just wrong because he's white? You got to ask yourself that question. You might even say because he's profiting off it, but I guarantee you this whole thing is racially motivated. That's how come they're saying, destroying the black careers and all that stuff. That's why they saying that. But this is the thing that I noticed as far as the epiphany, the banger. When it comes to gangsters, when it comes to street niggas, I found out the ones mad about this 1090 Jake situation, the black ones that are mad. Black street dudes hate white people more than they hate snitches. That's the bar. That's the epiphany. I'm going to say it again because it's some crazy shit. I haven't seen nobody say it. But when you really look at this shit, you realize the street guys hate white people more than they hate snitches. And it's some of the funniest shit. It's some of the funniest shit. It's funny that, the gangsters' moral compass come up. We talking about people who condone gas station shootouts, condone shooting up the motherfucking beach. It was a few innocent victims out there and shit like that. We talking about people who do that type of shit, shooting up the club, putting kids in traumatic experiences where they blowing somebody else's brains out in front of the kids. They don't care who they're. We talking about people who selling drugs, just period, like destroying people's lives by selling them drugs and shit like that. That's what we talking about. We talking about these people. They all of a sudden have morals when it comes to a white guy exposing snitches. That's worse than killing niggas. That's worse than selling drugs to niggas' moms, heroin, Fetty Wap. That's worse than terrorizing the community with shootouts. It's funny that the moral compass comes up when we talking about a white guy doing some shit amongst criminals. It's just funny. So that's that. We get the gangster shit out the way. If you a gangster and you have that stance, you really need to just look inside and ask yourself some of the questions that I asked during that. You really need to figure that out and sort that out. But let's talk about me, regular guy perspective. What do I think about it? And I'm going to just get this out the way real quick. It is weird. What 1090 Jake is doing is weird for two reasons. Number one, he's low key. I've seen people say he the feds and stuff like that. No, listen. The type of work he puts in with this paperwork and stuff like that to be a gangster, it is like, it's like he might as well go and do the bar exam, and just do some lawyer shit outside of YouTube, because the only people putting in the type of work he puts in, as far as looking at people's paperwork, looking at witness statements, looking at police reports, looking at all that shit, lawyers getting ready for a case. That's the only people who are looking at this much paperwork, studying everything and reading through everything. That's the only people who do this and get paid from it. He's getting paid because he's exposing these people and y'all want to see this shit. I don't watch this shit. So I'm not destroying a black man. But yeah, that's kind of weird for a gangster to just be that into just digging up paperwork and just basically doing a lawyer's job. And he's not preparing for an appeal. He's not preparing for a case as far as a defense or a prosecution. He's not doing none of that. But he's putting in all this work. I seen the finesse 2 times response he did, and I think he had 2 screens of paperwork up. Damn, you that's how you work it. You he might as well have a team. I seen a screenshot where he posted he made $1 million off YouTube doing this shit. So I think that is crazy. But the thing that makes it weird again, and I'm going to just leave this point here, is that he's a gangster and he's this in tune and just really doing this type of work. That's just weird. It just don't make sense to me. It makes sense from a money perspective. It's legal and stuff like that. But I just don't understand how you come from that and that's what you want to do. But again, we all hate snitches, right? Everybody hates snitches. I don't give a fuck about no snitches personally. That's how come it really don't hit me like that, because I don't care about the snitching, because you already see I laid out how criminals be terrorizing the neighborhoods we live in and shit. That's just what it is. Now, once we get past that, this is the other thing as far as how I feel about 1090 Jake. And this is not necessarily weird, but I think it is a fact that we have to address that. Number one, he is destroying careers, low-key. You know, even if he's not destroying careers, he is putting careers in jeopardy. And again, these people are rappers, but they chose to be rappers after they chose to be criminals. So it would be different if these niggas was rapping about flowers and on some common shit. It wouldn't affect their career at all if they was woke rappers. But what they're doing is they're getting rap careers, rapping about the life they used to live and still perpetuating that they live that life, still keeping gangsters around them, still doing all, like, you know, still around people doing all that shit, still funding heroin rings and shit like that. We ain't gonna get specific on that, but you dig it. That's what niggas be on. So it's not like niggas is just completely, they ties is completely cut from all the street shit. No, these niggas, some of them, not all, because some of these niggas are just flat out fraudulent, fake. They don't got nothing good. They never was into that shit. You know? But some of these niggas really come from that, and that's really what it is. Right now, as far as like realness and all that shit that niggas be trying to like, that drives the consumerism, this is the realest generation of rappers ever. Period, point blank. I don't care what you say. If one of you niggas that like the Pusha T videos that I do that's like 48 is gonna be, no, because Cool G Rap is not a part of no heroin ring. Cool G Rap never got busted or nothing like that. And I'm not trying to single out Cool G Rap. I'm just saying any of them 90s rappers, bruh, them niggas wasn't really like that, and they really wasn't getting it. It just wasn't going like that for most of them, dog. For most of them. But to bring that home, he is destroying careers and stuff like that. But I don't really feel too sorry because, again, these are, you know, on one hand, they're entertainers, and I fuck with the entertainment, even though I'll admit I have a cognitive dissonance with it too, because I know how this shit influences the hood for real in negative ways. It has negative influence all throughout America, and it influences spread even overseas. Drill rap overseas. Niggas getting shanked with the skangs, man. You know, all that shit. So, yeah, like, as far as, like, I don't really feel too much sympathy because of that, but I still do fuck with the entertainment. But again, you get the point I made right there. So he is destroying careers, and he is profiting off of it. I won't even go too heavy into the profit. I'm just going to say it is kind of funny that he is profiting off the destruction of other individuals. But again, these individuals are criminals, so I don't really feel too much motherfucking, like, you know, I really don't feel too much. I don't feel too much sympathy. I just don't. You know, if you a gangster and you feel the sympathy for that, that's cool. But I'm not about to say what he's doing is like some white supremacy shit or is crazy, immoral or anything like that. Because when we talk about black genocide and stuff like that, you know, you don't got to look further than our motherfucking cities, all the urban areas, motherfucking death rate or whatever that the murder rate. You don't have to look further than that. That's more detrimental to us than some white guy taking away one rap guy's career who really ain't doing shit for his hood and doing shit like, you know, that's just what it is, man. So we gonna keep it moving. Now, I know we talking about all of this shit with 1090 Jake and stuff like that, but we got to talk about the fans and the non-gangsters. You know, a lot of these people have the same sympathy for, you know, these gangster rappers that, like, you know, the actual gangsters who be in the comments doing stuff like that. A lot of these people share that same sympathy. And I'm going to tell you what it is, man. It's the free Cuddy shit. You know, for people who don't get the lingo, it's free him. You know, when it comes to, we'll just go to the hood now. When it comes to street dudes in the hood that the hood love, they could have shot and killed 12 people in one sitting. They could have did that. The people that love that person, they gonna say free Cuddy. That's just what it is. No matter how heinous the crime is, they are going to say free Cuddy because they love him. This is the other part. They are going to get mad at people who say anything negative about Cuddy, even though Cuddy is doing some crazy shit. I'm gonna give you one good example. When that dude went viral for getting killed by like a dollar store employee when he was trying to rob, at gunpoint, the dollar store and stuff like that. The family was on the screen going crazy, like, man, he shouldn't have did that shit. That nigga was wrong. He ain't have to shoot him, even though he had a gun. No matter what. No matter what Cuddy do, Cuddy is always right. That's just what it is. So when it comes to just black people in the hood and just, all of that, even some white people, they have different biases, This is going to sound crazy, and this is not all white people, but if we talk about people who are not from the culture and stuff like that, when little Timmy shoots up the school, the parents is always, he was such a good kid. That's their bias. That's their bias. They still have a bias towards people they love as far as people that are not from the hood. So you can see that that's in them too. So even if people outside the hood or even white people love these rappers, they are going to vouch for these rappers, even though, the situation may call for them to be scrutinized, aka them being exposed as snitches. They still gonna vouch for these rappers. They still go, man, I love him. Nah, he ain't do nothing wrong. Man, nobody cared. They gonna find ways to justify it and shit. That's just how this shit works. So with that being said, those people are not gonna share the same perspective as me because they don't even look at, they just don't give a fuck. And I'm going to give you a perfect example that somebody mentioned to me, man. The youth loves Ja Morant, man. He had that whole gun shit pop off, and that's not even that serious of a thing to me. But, a lot of people talked about it. It was very controversial. A lot of us was calling him like stupid, dumb the second time around and stuff like that. He really just a fuck up, Let me tell you who didn't give a fuck about that. The kids. The kids was like, the kids who've been growing up off this NBA YoungBoy shit, they like, the fuck did he even do? Like, that, how the fuck is that wrong? Like, what the fuck? And even then, even if you look at the niggas find 50 million ways to justify this shit. They don't hold them accountable at all. They find 50 million ways to justify the shit. They'll post pictures of fucking Shaq with a hunting rifle in the forest and say, what's the difference? Shit like that. Little funny shit. But the Ja Morant shoe was still selling like crazy. So I just had to illustrate that point that, when it comes to these celebrities that people love, especially street dudes, they can do no wrong. And 1090 Jake is absolutely going to be scrutinized by the fans because at the end of the day, it's like, bro, we love this nigga and you trying to take him away from us? Fuck you. You racist. You're a culture vulture. That's what it is. So that's my full set of thoughts on that. I don't really have nothing else. That's just what it is. So I don't necessarily feel like he is 100% a culture vulture because the culture has set it up to where what he's actually doing shouldn't be looked at as something that's wrong. That's the way the culture is set up. If we being honest, which, niggas is not going to be honest. That's just what it is. So let me know your thoughts. I'm out.